Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for being here at the Wire Life podcast. I appreciate you being here. How are you
Yes,
today?
glad to be here. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Excited to hear a little bit about you, your journey. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in real estate.
Geez, well, I got started in real estate. I had no background in real estate whatsoever. I actually originally am a musician, a trained musician. So, uh, yeah, I was actually in New York City for the last decade, singing in a dance band, actually in several bands, doing some traveling internationally with a military-based group that went from base to base, entertaining troops. And when I wasn't doing that, I was singing in weddings and doing all sorts of that stuff. So I had absolutely no background in investing in real estate. It actually wasn't until my husband, my then boyfriend, and I went to Italy, and I realized how small I was on that trip. I realized, you go to a place like Rome and you think, oh, these things are so old, and someone made them, and someone made something lasting, and we have no idea who these people were. But they lived in their time, they lived big, they lived brave, and it all worked out. And no one remembers them, no one remembers the things that they messed up, the things that went well, the things that went badly. And that sort of put a fire underneath me to think, why don't I just go for it? Like, what's the worst that can happen is that my name will be forgotten in history, and no one will remember either way. So why not do something big, do something lasting and brave? Now, as a musician, that was a difficult thing to try to. I'm like, so how do I do that as a musician? Around that same time, um, I came to a realization that my job as a singer and as a performer was a little bit limited, because it's not very family friendly. Um, and so I realized that my career that I'd spent my entire life doing was pretty finite, and I needed some sort of avenue to go into after that. So I started picking up books. I read wealth building books, self development books, and everyone was talking about real estate. Well, me being in Brooklyn, New York, I mean, I was sitting in a 700 square foot apartment, and thinking that I had the best apartment, and with amongst all of my friends, I'm like, oh, but I have this great apartment. I have this. Never once did I think as an artist, oh, I'm gonna own property, um, let alone multiple properties. So I had a lot of growth to do in my own head. Um, and it's not something that I think I would have ever leapt toward if, COVID didn't hit. COVID hit and my work stopped. As a musician, all of my gigs were canceled for the entire year, and I had the time finally to think, okay, what else can I do? Um, and what does that look like? My grandfather passed away around that time, and my husband and I came to Richmond for the funeral, and we fell in love with the city. I'd been coming here since I was a little kid, but I never considered living here. This You don't go to grandpa's house to stay. So you don't go from New York to Virginia, not usually. But we fell in love with the place. We came to stay, and that was when I discovered Teresa Todd Luton's class. Took that class in December, and it was very quick that I found what it was that I was looking for. Um, and yeah, as they say, the rest is history. I'm about 5 houses in. I'm a year in. I just had my year anniversary like 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Um, yeah, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. It's unbelievable. $17 class. And I was like, sure, I guess I'll do it. And I was just, from day one, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. So, so yeah, I'm ending the year pretty strong. yeah, feeling blessed. I don't know. In a nutshell, that's who I am.
Very good. Thank you so much. So what strategy are you mainly focusing on now? And Richmond is your market, I assume.
Sure, yes. Richmond, for now, Richmond is my market until I can get my feet a little wet, see all that I need to see, then I'm going to start branching out into new markets. But currently I'm working on replacing my income, mine and my husband's income, with our properties. So that means buy and holds, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals are my specialty right now. I really like the idea of the Airbnb sort of thing, however, not as much turnaround. So I went ahead and went with the uh, professional rentals. So like 3 to 6 months, only for like doctors, nurses, people who travel professionally.
Very good.
So yeah,
Sounds
so that's what I'm
exciting.
doing there. I do have a couple of flips in the works, but mainly my focus is on legacy building, wealth building, with buy and holds.
All right, very nice. And how are you finding these deals? Like, what marketing strategy are you using?
Yes. Well, marketing. That's a bear. I haven't found the strategy that I absolutely love just yet. Mainly right now, I've been using wholesalers. I've been using a little bit of the MLS, um, but very specific searches when I'm doing the MLS, just not anything that's ready to go, and like no new builds, no nothing that can't put, obviously equity into. Um, but yeah, so mainly wholesalers, FISBOs, anytime I can work directly with the owner, that's great. Um, and sometimes the MLS.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Um, so do you have a team that assists you, or is this just you and your partner, or what does the team look like?
The team looks like you're looking at the team right now.
I love it.
I have different hats that I put on at different times.
Yes.
Yes, I'm being from music and from that performance world, I'm very, very good at marketing myself. So I have a huge team behind me
All right.
for all intents and purposes, but really it's just me. I always have a boss, like, oh, I'll have to check with the big guy on that one. And oh, I don't know, I'll have to check with my team. It's really just me. I'm at the stage where I'm still wearing all of the hats. I feel like as a new investor, you're going to wear all of the hats at the beginning until you can really get things moving. Um, I do have 3 contracting teams. One that I do just one that doesn't require any permits, so quick flips, things that are quick turnarounds that I generally use for when I'm burring something. I have a high-end contractor team that I use for my high-end builds, and then I have just someone that's right in the middle that can do the harder stuff, can work under permits, but not super high-end. So currently, I just deploy those 3 teams as needed, trying to keep each team working on different projects. So that's the goal. I will need help eventually, as this year has shown me. Oh my goodness. And I'll probably start with a VA once I figure out what I want my marketing strategy to stay. So I'll probably get a VA, but my first full staff member will probably be an acquisitionist.
Very good. Sounds very nice. I like it. So
Yes.
how are you finding all these deals?
Um, I'm finding them in several different places. I started out um, pretty gung ho, and I wanted to know every wholesaler in my area. So, again, with the marketing, I sent them a nice, beautiful packet that says who I am, what I'm looking for, how many properties I'm looking to purchase this quarter. And I sort of became friends with all of my wholesalers, first name basis. They know me, they know that I'm a buyer, and I'm not speculating. When I want something, I'm gonna, get it done. So now people come to me with their deals, which has worked out really well. I mean, a small army of people that I'm on their list, on their top list. So currently, I go to Facebook Marketplace. That's a hidden gem that a lot of people don't know about. Facebook Marketplace is a gold mine for deals. Wholesalers bring all their stuff there. I do a lot of driving for dollars. I got two properties, two of my properties are driving for dollars, seeing a FISBO sign outside and calling it and being like, let's talk. And one was from the MLS. So, but again, that wasn't me going on Zillow, clicking. That's me talking to my realtor. They know what I'm looking for, and then them bringing me things that they find.
All right, very good. So I guess you do have your own little army after all.
Very small, but it's there.
Very good. Yeah, it's one step at a time. And for funding, are you using like private money, hard money lenders, or how are you going about that?
For funding, the first year is difficult. Just trying to get your foot in the ground. You can't go to a hard money lender because they don't take unexperienced people. Dealing with private money has its ups and downs as well. But I'm, being that I've just started out, I want to make sure that I try everything so that I can learn. So I have mainly private money. I do have a hard money loan for one of my properties. And I'm looking at another hard money loan for another property, as well as I was finally able to build up enough business credit that I could get a line of credit for the next year to use. So in the next year, I'll be using that line of credit to sort of get things moving and pushed forward sort of in a more systematic way, if that makes sense.
Beautiful. I love it. All right. So how do you keep yourself accountable to get all of these hats and all these things done? And I mean, it just sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. It didn't start out as a lot, which thank God. It started off as, I find as a new investor, every step that you take is the hardest step. When you're on it, you're just like, oh my gosh, like marketing. Like I remember at the very beginning, I could not figure out what my business card was going to look like or what my business name. I have 6 names that are out there in space somewhere that I decided against. Like it was the hardest thing. And then finding a deal, the hardest thing. And then finding funding for that deal, the hardest thing. All of them brought tears, all of them brought frustration, but all of them brought growth. And then when I went about it again the second time, these things that I thought were nearly impossible the first time came so easy. So that being said, I keep my accountability as I go. The things that are behind me are done and I know how to do them. I'm not scared of them anymore. So it's always just looking ahead. And you get to a certain point, if I can be 100% honest, you get to a certain point where you don't have a choice. You have so many things in the fire. The ball, how I describe it is, it's like pushing the wheel up the hill, and it's just, you're going straight up sometimes, pushing it with your back, you're pushing. Then it comes a point where you get to the top of that hill, and then all of that momentum and inertia, just the ball rolls on its own and you're chasing after it. Like, oh my gosh, it's a runaway train.
I love that.
And so after a while, you work so hard to get it there, it starts to move and you don't really have a choice as to whether or not you're gonna do that thing. You're like, no, the thing is happening. I just have to keep up with it. So how I keep my accountability, after a minute, you realize I'm legally bound in this business. This thing is happening. I made this commitment. So we're going. The ball is going and I am tied to it. So I'm either being dragged behind or I'm keeping up with it. And once I realized that, it didn't become a question of how or if. It's just a matter of just put your head down, get back into it. We're here.
Laser
So
focused on the goal.
exactly.
All right. So business
Absolutely.
sides look like you got it down packed. What about, you like mentally, emotionally, spiritually? How is there anything that you tend to do to take care of that side?
Yes. And in fact, I feel like, coming out of this year, looking back at it all, um, there is such a immense difference in me, in my work, in the stress levels that I can take, the pressure when I'm in my morning meditations, when I'm journaling, when I'm taking that time to self-develop. It's literally night and day. My husband will say things like, have you done your morning meditations today? Or have you been working on yourself? He calls my brain my garden. Have you been weeding your garden?
I
And I'm
love
like, no,
that.
I haven't. And it's just so obvious. That's one of the things that I took from this entire process up to this point is I am only as good as my mind is that day. The most important thing that I do every day in the mornings, or not even every day, all day, the most important things, my days live and die by what I decide to do at 5 a.m. So, and I've had those times where, the first 6 months, 6 months, I'll give myself, the first 6 months of this, I was like gung ho, 5 a.m., 4:30 sometimes, waking up in my Bible, in my books, reading for an hour, um, reviewing my goals, reviewing my notes, writing, like just in it. And it really, really allowed me to fast forward. I feel like it like fast tracked me in a way that I can't believe. But then when I stopped, so did that fast track. I had a goal of, it doesn't matter what the goal was. I'm not going to meet that goal. But I truly believe that I'd be a lot closer if for 4 months of the year I didn't stop doing my self-development. I got to a point where it felt like I was afraid to see what was in those books because I knew they were so powerful. Things were happening too fast. I was just like, I don't even know if I want this. I don't know. I'm a musician still, very much my brain was moving on without me. My business was moving on without me. Everyone was getting in line and I chickened out. Um, and then I spent the next 4 or so months trying to figure out what was wrong with me, trying to figure out like, why is this so hard? Why is it just felt like I was heavy and not in a good way. What have I done? I've gotten my family into a mess. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And finally, in fact, last month, maybe 2 months ago, I got to a point where I had to give up. I was waiting for my first refinance to come through, and I thought, oh, this should take me, 3 weeks? 3 months later, I was so humbled. And that's, I mean, just so humbled to the point where you just literally, my husband was away for work and I was on the floor in my living room. I'm looking at it over there on the floor, stretched out. Like, God, please, you're right. I need help. Help me, please. What are we doing? Just completely humbled, realizing something's got to give because as hard as I'm trying, I'm not enough. I'm simply just not enough where I am. So I picked up my book, I picked up any book, just anything to put something good in my head. And one of the first things that it said is your success will always be limited to your self-development. You will not succeed over who you are. So, first line of business all day, every day needs to be, how can I grow better? How can I be bigger so that I can expect my success to be bigger, so that I can handle the weight of success, which a lot of people don't realize. It's much heavier than it's like, no, it's success. It's like freedom. It's like, wow, it's
About that.
freedom, but it's definitely not free.
There you go. That's a good
So,
way to put it. I love
yeah, so
everything you shared with us. I mean, it's amazing, amazing. What about physically? Anything, what do you like to do? Any sports, anything, any exercise?
yes, yes. Another, yeah, I love running. I consider myself a runner, although it's an off and on relationship. But I do try to move my body as often as possible. A lot of the women in the women's REIN were talking about the what do they call it? The freshman 17 that a lot of us have put on in doing this business in the last year. Um, so I'm really trying to get my bearings in this next year, really come up with a schedule that feeds every part of my life. Balance myself out a little bit, because really for this first year, I feel like I mean, it's Christmas and I'm like, oh, I was just here last Christmas when I remember saying to my husband, I'm going to take 3 months to focus on this one business, just 3 months. And now I'm here a year later. I'm like, oh, well, that was a long 3 months. Sorry about that, babe. But yeah, so try to stay focused, try to stay physical, doing something every day is the goal. If it happens every day, it's a miracle, but that's another thing that I definitely do need to work on.
Love us, I think, especially post-COVID, but
Yeah,
working on it, same thing.
working on it, work in progress for
All
sure.
right, very good. So out of the million things that you do already, what would you consider to be one of your superpowers?
Superpowers. In regards to real estate, I'm assuming.
Anything, personal, real estate, whatever.
Okay, sure. Superpowers. I would say that I don't do anything halfway.
Like,
That could be good and bad. In this case, it's been really good. Um, I feel like entrepreneurs, and I read this somewhere, I have to go back and write it down, but entrepreneurs have very specific traits. We're usually all, you know, type A, want to control our environments, um, are goal driven, um, dreamers. I mean, things that some people would call completely crazy, like, oh man, she's crazy. Oh, she's doing one of her things again. It's like, yeah, that's me, you know. So I would say my superpower is um, not really recognizing the heights of where I climb. A lot of people get scared of the heights. They look down, they're like, oh my God. And I'm just like, just keep looking up and see how far you can go. And I've done that over and over and over and over. So much so that I'm no longer really afraid to go after things that I'm afraid of. In fact, now if I'm not a little, then I don't even bother. There was a house the other day and I was just like, okay, this is going to be but it's not giving me the feeling of, oh my gosh, are you really going to do this? So I'll pass. And then 3 weeks later, I found a house that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to think about it. I closed on it yesterday, but it wasn't until the day before that I decided I was going to close on it. I was like, I don't know. And it's like, just because I'm thinking these thoughts, this tells me, let your fear guide where you go as opposed to like keep where you go.
beautiful
So
message. I love it. I love it. All right. So as a hobby, or I don't know, like what makes you happy, alive, like what, I don't know, for fun, right? Because it
for
sounds like a lot of
fun,
business.
right? For fun. Yeah, that's another work in progress, if I can be 100% honest. I am a workaholic. I'm in a family of workaholics. Um, so I'm trying to focus on rounding out my life. And I think that, you know, I didn't even realize that I didn't really know what I liked to do for fun until this past summer when I was, you know, in a group and they were like, so let's write down the things that we do for fun. I'm like, fun? Who has time for fun? So, you know, I aspire to get to a place that all of my hobbies are making me money. I aspire to get to a place that I am financially free and I can do my music for fun as opposed to this is a job. Um, that sounds fun. But I mean, other than that, I really actually enjoy what I'm doing. I love being caught up and wrapped up in something. I love the gift that it's an onion that you could just keep peeling and it just keeps giving you more and more and more. And I absolutely love creating things. So my favorite thing to do is just look at houses and figure out like just like put them back together again. So I genuinely enjoy what I do. A lot of people are like, you know, this is a vehicle to get me to other places, and I'm like, yeah, this is a vehicle, but it's like a Maserati vehicle. So it's like, yeah, it's a vehicle, but it's also pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know if that's I
Yeah,
don't know if
that's
I'm a
good.
very good
No,
example for
it's
that.
all right. Very nice. So what good books do you recommend or book?
Yes. I'm going to actually, I have several books that shaped shaped me amazingly for this business. Um, One of the biggest, I'm actually looking it up right now.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Uh, the the biggest one that honestly changed me completely. I had a huge issue with fear. I wanted to make sure I did everything, but I wanted to make sure I did it right, and I want to do it right the first time, which is completely, I mean, it's not going to happen. But so there's this book called Fear Vana by Akshay Nanavati. It's amazing. It's about, instead of like I mentioned before, it's about finding the places that you feel fear, recognizing that if it's not going to kill you, then it's likely something that's stirring in you. And sometimes those stirrings say, this is the way to go. Please don't confuse this feeling with fear as much as with opportunity. It's very, very close. So um, Fear Vana is an amazing book. Um, the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone will set you on fire, but you got to be ready for that book. That's one of those books that if you're not ready, which I wasn't ready, I didn't feel like I was ready for the intensity of that book. It's going to set you ablaze, and you will be ready by the end of that. It's one of those books that it reminds you that this isn't just some thing that you want to do as much as this is your calling. This is your children's dependency on you. However high you go is the floor that they stand on. And so it just becomes like um, this isn't something to do for fun. This is something to do for need. Um, and it becomes like a job, like a fire is put underneath you for that. And as well as The Miracle Morning, also a great, great book to get you if you're not a morning person, but even if you do it in the afternoon, whenever you do it, just sort of recognizing um, self-development time. And all these books lead to other books, which is the most important thing. Once you start them, you'll be different at the end of the books, and that's the scariest thing, but it's the best thing. Those are the good ones.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So,
Yeah.
where can people find you?
Yes, I'm sorry. I am all over Instagram. I'm all over Facebook. I have several Instagrams. I actually started um, two businesses around this whole thing, specifically for artists. One is called Artist Sense with a C, and that's all about getting artists to save those pennies and then invest those pennies to make more pennies. But my company is Real Deal LLC. So you can find me at Let's Real Deal on Instagram. You can find me on Let's Real Deal on Facebook. You can go to letsrealdeal.com. I'm there. Yeah, and reach out. I would love to chat with people. I'm always looking to connect. I'm looking to network and all that good stuff. But yeah, Real Deal on Instagram. Let's Real
All
Deal.
right, perfect. So one last thing here before we go. What challenge would you like to leave the audience with for, the next 2 weeks until our next episode comes on?
Absolutely. Honestly, I would challenge you all to read one of those books. It's a challenge because I challenge you to not be changed after reading those books. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for being here and for everything you've shared. It's been amazing to have you. And I know I've learned, so I'm assuming there's a lot, good info people have gotten from this interview. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. You as well.
Thanks.
Bye.